Opinions and ideas expressed in the following Moraine Valley Broadcast Channel recording are those of its creators and do not represent the views of Moraine Valley Community College.
Hey guys, welcome back for Food. Oh my god. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to Food for Thought. Today's episode, we're going to focus on the food industry and its effect on obesity. My name's Taylor.
My name is Jane.
And I'm Trisha. And today, this podcast is a representation of discourse on the obesity crisis. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have definitions of discourse so, like, the audience knows what we're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
You go ahead, Taylor.
I actually found a definition pretty short and sweet. Discourse is a written or spoken communication or debate.
No, I like that one a lot too. Yeah, mine is a mode of organized knowledge, ideas, or experience rooted in language and is concrete context. So I think that one's a little more like like more examples and more in depth. But I like that one a lot too.
Okay,
it's right to it.
Mine is that it's essentially a formally organized discussion between a group of people, such as ourselves, for example, whereas the speakers are cohesively expressing their thoughts on the given topic.
Yeah, so I feel like those are three good examples on what discourse is, and it's about any topic anyone could think of. Right. So now that we know what discourse means, I feel like we should understand what obesity is and how it's measured. Mm-hmm. So obesity, according to the CDC, they define it as the weight that is higher than what is considered as a healthy weight for that height. And a BMI, I read this on the Harvard School of Public Health website, that doctors can easily calculate the body mass index, which is the BMI, for the heights and weights they gather in at each checkup. Someone with a BMI measurement of 25 to 30 would be considered overweight, while someone with a BMI 30 or higher would be considered obese.
Okay, and we're like discourse and obesity lie together. We're basically going to talk about today is how the food industry blames or does not take blame for the responsibility and the role in obesity today. So the debate is basically personal versus environment.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about peer-reviewed ads, journals, TV shows, radio, congressman speeches, things like that sort of go along with the topic of obesity and discourse. Yeah,
so there's kind of like, we all sat together and we thought of the three things we thought of for each personal versus environment when we thought of that with relating to the obesity crisis. So for personal, we thought mainly, like, people go, it's your own problem, you have to figure it out. It's how you eat and it's how you exercise. While environment, we thought of it's what you see, what you're told, and like the income, because we looked it up in a lot. We noticed that with statistics and stuff that lower income families and communities, poverty, tend to be more overweight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, you go home from work, or it's just cheaper and it's easier to get something fast food.
Right. Do you really want to stand over an oven after standing all day or working all day and cook a meal when you could just go down the street and get a sandwich?
Yeah, and just get a cheeseburger or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
wait, I'm missing.
Yeah, go.
Sorry. Okay. And then I also found that from a quote from Think Progress, Democrats tend to believe that both the individual and government are responsible for combating the obesity epidemic, while Republicans believe that the on us falls largely on the individual. So it's basically saying that Republicans tend to think that it's more of a personal responsibility than an environmental responsibility.
No, like, I found a quote that fits right into that. It's from a congressman named Rick Keller, and in 2004, to ban lawsuits claiming health damages against fast food restaurants is typical in emphasizing personal behavior. And he says we've got to get back to those old-fashioned principles of personal responsibility, of common sense, and get away from this new culture where everybody plays the victim and blames other people for their problems. So basically he's putting it on the individual and saying, like, it's not the fast food's problem at all, which is a perfect example of personal responsibility.
Right, taking initiative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's your fault. It's your problem. Okay,
So then we had also watched an HBO documentary called Weight of the Nation. And we compared that with Nicole Arbor video called Dear Fat People.
Yeah, the stigma part of it mainly. So, yeah, the Way of the Nation, they talk to people who are overweight and obese, and they kind of ask them what their feelings are, how they're spoken to every day, like what they go
Their
through.
personal lively experiences.
Yeah, well, Nicole Arbor, who's an internet personality, she made a video called Dear Fat People, and she is basically saying, I'm being harsh because I care, and she just spoke very harshly and had many different examples. Do you guys want to talk about those two?
Yeah.
In the Weight of the Nation video, one of the obese people, they talk about how they know that they're fat. Or I don't know if I should use that word. Should I use that word?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
I don't know if they know that they're obese, and they don't need to be told every day. Just how Nicole Arbor's saying that she wants to say this and make this video to help them when they already know. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, it's like, don't tell me. Like, I already know what I'm going through.
She has that sort of outsider perspective when she's not living it every day. And there were many people in that HBO documentary where they were saying, we live with this every day. We don't have to be told. Right.
Yeah, and they even talk about, like, the people who take food out of their grocery cart. Yeah. And she had that story with the family on the airplane. And she... I don't, like, it was just so mean.
Yeah, rude.
And she also did where there was, like, this family, and she had to wait a long time because they were overweight, so it took them a while to get through everything. And then she sat next to the son on the airplane, and he was, like, over her seat. And it was... She
was making it seem like he was doing it on purpose, when in reality, he can't control that he's invading her space.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's really not even that big of an issue. You kind of just got to deal with it.
Exactly. Like, what is he going to do?
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know. And the parking lot thing that you brought up, Jane.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Nicole made a very impressionable point when she was talking about basically saying that we provide crutches to obese people and calling them disabled, and saying that their parking lot shouldn't be at the front of the parking lot. It should basically be at the back so that they get the exercise and walk to the front of the grocery store.
Yeah. So it's just about like a kind of like outside view, how and her video's out in the media, and she refuses to apologize for it because she thinks that she's helping people. And it's just another thing of like deflecting and people saying what they want.
I thought it was very interesting in the HBO documentary where many of the people who are being interviewed feel like it's become socially acceptable to bully people if they're obese.
Yeah, it's just...
They feel like they're going to go outside their home, and they just already expect it from outside people. And I just think that a big possibility with the Nicole Arbor video, I think a lot of her videos going through the topics she chooses to focus on, it's more controversial. So I feel like she could be doing everything she's doing just for the media, just for likes, for views, for more publicity.
Oh,
you know, like,
totally. Yeah.
Like there are some people out there today that think crazy and think that don't have any, sensitivity in their heart towards other people, but it's hard for me to believe that she honestly believes and thinks what she's saying is right.
Yeah, and it's just...
People do anything for the popularity, or like they said, the views, the publicity. So,
and she
what
put
better way to get it?
Yeah, and she put it all on exercise and personal responsibility,
right?
Which I feel like people who are in the public eye kind of do that often. Like we talked about the lobbyist Rick Berman, aka Dr. Evil,
right?
Who he's a lobbyist against many organizations. For those who don't know him, he runs a public relations company called Berman & Co. He has made many ads attacking government regulations, especially dealing with food. And he's just a big example of personal responsibility, exercise, especially because he's funded by the food industry mainly.
Right.
And we have a commercial we wanted to play for the viewers just to show basically what his ads are showing people and like what they're making people believe.
Make sure your microphone is facing it. Yeah, there we go. Very good.
Everywhere you turn, somebody is telling us what we can't eat. It's getting harder just to enjoy a beer on a night out. Do you ever feel like you've always been told what not to do? Find out who's driving the food police at consumerfreedom.com.
Hey, back off!
And Consumer Freedom is just one of his many examples of how the food, how it's personal responsibility and the government telling you what to do, just to show people like you can do what you want and like not to listen to them.
Yeah. And I know visually you couldn't see the video, but it was very graphic in portraying how human instinct doesn't like to be challenged. If someone sets out to do something, they're going to do that. I'm going to eat this hot dog and no one's going to tell me what to do. Like, that's their mindset.
Yeah, and the whole video was someone trying to eat something and a hand coming out and taking it out.
Taking out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think, human instinct doesn't like to be challenged is a big thing with that, because what you want to do, you feel like you should be able to do.
Mm-hmm. Just to cut in, we're about at 11 and a half minutes.
Oh, my
God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Okay, let's try to get through
We'll just keep
this.
going.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And we'll just cut out what we don't think we need.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
wow.
we should just talk
I
as
know,
much.
right?
Yeah, I feel like, and then
we'll
just
edit it completely. So I don't even think we should worry about the time.
Yeah.
Well, we should, but like
I just wanted to let you guys know.
Yeah, no, good to know.
Yeah.
So we know we're doing pretty good, guys. Okay. So we have that. We have Rick Berman,
No, we are
Just talk about
going
him.
on to
Fun and Responsibility,
PepsiCo.
which is another big example of personal responsibility. And we looked at this and we found a quote from her by the New Yorker. And so this is the CEO of PepsiCo. And she was in an interview and they were talking about kind of whose responsibility about the obesity crisis.
Right.
And her quote was, "The real challenge is, instead of sitting down and figure out who is responsible specifically, why don't we say we need to be part of the solution?" Again, deflecting their responsibility.
Putting it on the individual.
Yeah, taking no part on what they do to America and how they're a big reason our population is, obese.
Yeah. And just, it's not their, problem, but they should work to be part of the solution. I don't know. It's just like, we didn't do anything wrong, but we want to help.
Yeah.
So we got her. And we have Susan Neely, who we wanted to talk about, too, who is a lobbyist. She works at a lobbyist group, Beverage Association, which is another thing funded by the food industry.
Funded by the food industry.
Which lobbyists are people who are paid by different companies to go and get their bills or things to help them out and influencing Congress people. So it goes like food company, lobbyist, government, and how they can try to curve it. How it goes back to being paid by the food industry.
And she was also confronted by just a spokesperson trying to see her input on obesity and beverages, right?
In The Weight of the Nation, we watched that. Yeah.
And I remember viewing her, and she looked troubled in answering the questions because she had to, of course, represent her company.
Right.
And defend them. But how can you go about doing that knowing that you're lying?
There's going to be a backlash to it.
Exactly.
There'll be repercussions.
And she just deflected the whole time. We tried to change the subject.
She changed it about pushed it again more towards exercise and less TV.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on, her company's
responsibility.
In the issue.
Exactly.
And you looked up Michael Bloomberg, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about him?
He was the mayor of New York, and he limited to the 16 ounce of the size of sugary drinks sold in restaurants, movie theaters, stadiums, and arenas. So basically, he was just trying to limit the amount of soda that you could purchase and consume at one time. So, and it actually showed that he instead of bringing the proposal to the city council for a vote, the administration sent it to the Board of Health. So that kind of right there just shows that instead of bringing it to city council and involving the government, involving politics, involving people, that I'm sure, like you said, it's all a circle. It's all about like the government funding, you know, like the food beverages, and then everything like that. So to see that he bring it to the Administration of Health instead.
Yeah, and it's all about, like, he got shut down really fast.
Right.
Because the food industry didn't like it, and they got the public not to like it. So it basically goes back to food industry, public,
getting
and lobbyists.
the numbers to
Exactly.
Back to the government.
Getting the
Beverage
voice.
Association to like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all that. They quoted that it allegedly interfered with the consumer's choice.
Yeah, and the consumer's choice. So their choice to have bigger drinks, to buy more. And he fought it.
He fought it. So
And-
they're just basically saying we have a choice to consume their products, but they also want us to make the choice so they're not being blamed to exercise and to involve less TV. So it's kind of like how Jane said, like wishy-washy, like you want us to consume something that's feeding into us being obese, but and then you want us to supposedly exercise
and balance it
out, supposedly.
Yeah, and it's just like the food industry shutting it down because they don't like it. And they curve government a lot, and we saw that with Michelle Obama when she did her Let's Move campaign. In the beginning of the campaign, it was like,
Mostly about
it
food.
was food and
What you eat.
yeah, and exercise was moved into that. But then as she went on, it was more exercise.
Right.
Because again, the food industry curving the government and curving popular opinion.
And when you've got someone who's really popular, really famous, they're a figurehead for this, and if they're advocating for it and it appeals to individuals, they're going to get behind it right away.
Yeah, they're more likely to follow behind the person if they're, like you said, a big person in media and they're looked up upon.
Right.
Yeah, and the food industry was able to do that with Michelle Obama. And the appealing to kids, like the food industry is able to do that as well through the McDonald's toys. We talked about how when they started doing that, kids, they claim that they're not appealing to kids, they're appealing to the parents. But you see Ronald McDonald's running around with kids.
And the Happy Meal toys.
Yeah, and a kid when you're a kid, would you rather get a meal with your toy, like a toy with your meal, or just a plain meal?
burger.
Yeah, and you'd rather a toy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and again, the Nick Day of Play, they shut their thing off so you can go play for a day.
right.
That's appealing to the child. And the exercise is making them look good.
But is it that powerful to deter them from going to play a video game or turning on the next channel?
Yeah.
You know?
It's just all about publicity. And
And with publicity, we talked about how we want to go into that McDonald's
In the
with
hospitals?
yeah, we can go into that right now. So, like Taylor said, the McDonald's hospitals, they basically what they did is McDonald's
That's okay.
McDonald's and lobbyists of Cleveland, McDonald's gave money to the Cleveland Hospital and the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to make themselves look good, and for publicity. But also, they're your option when you're at the hospital
It's
because
your
they're right
only
there. They have McDonald's in the
place
lobby.
you can go to get food.
And it's all about publicity.
Right.
Which, from reading the perils of ignoring history, Big Tobacco played dirty and millions died. How similar is Big Food? The article by Kelly D. Brownell and Kenneth E. Warner. Basically, they took Big Tobacco's playbook from the 1950s, 60s, which they gave money to dance troupes, museums, and communities to look good for public relations. And that's what the food industry is doing at the hospital, like McDonald's and the Cleveland hospitals. And
so what is that playbook?
okay, so the playbook, which is basically the core of all the examples we just gave. We've given a lot of examples, and this just brings it right back. So they are right here. So the first one is focus on personal responsibility as the cause of the nation's unhealthy diet. The second one is raise fears that government action spurs personal freedom. Vilify critics with totalitarian language, characterizing them as the food police, leaders of a nanny state, and even food fascists, and accuse them of desiring to strip people of their civil liberties. Criticize studies that hurt industry as junk science, emphasize physical activity over diet, state there are no good or bad foods, hence no food or food type, should be targeted for change, and plant out when concerns are raised about the industry.
Real quick, we've just been given the 5-minute warning from him out there.
Okay, cool. So let's just kind of wrap this up with
So
those.
I think planting doubt is essentially the most powerful thing we want to look at with that, because it's essentially like if you put it into a courtroom setting, are the big food companies really guilty?
Which brings it right back to personal responsibility.
Right.
And the food industry influencing those people in the government and the popular, planting doubt on whose fault is it. And big government. We saw in the commercial that we showed. Food fascists, food nanny, food police. Like, look at all this. And it's personal responsibility. Leave me alone. Get the government out. And it's planting doubt on your government, on yourself, on what you really believe. And it's from
I think it's just
all
confusing
this.
everybody in a whole. Like, you don't know who to blame. Like, you're just thinking, me putting together all the information we all discovered and put together. It's just thinking about how it's so controversial. Like you're saying, personal responsibility, but the people in that commercial were eating foods that I guess you would consider, since there isn't no good or bad food, but they're eating higher calorie food in that commercial. So, like she said, everybody wants to do what they want to do, but at the same time, we don't want to take personal responsibility. So it's kind of like, what is it? Are we taking personal responsibility? Are we going to do what we want to do? Are we going to listen to the food industry and continue to go down this path, or are we going to listen to the doctors and everybody telling us that it's it's the food industry's responsibility? Like, there's just so many ways to go about it, like to think who's to blame.
No, I totally agree. It's just all one big thing. And when you are unaware and you don't know the research behind everything, you think, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And they're telling me it's fine, then it's fine. You don't know all the influence that they have to make it look like it's okay.
Right.
Exactly. Because if I didn't know anything about this and I watched that commercial, I'd kind of
I'd be like, yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah, leave me alone. Like, let me eat what I want to eat. That's not everybody's. But then looking at it as a whole, it's like,
it all goes back to their playbook.
And
that's
planting
the way they
doubt.
want us to think.
Exactly. And it's the playbook is basically them curving our mind, like our view on everything. And these like core things that they have are basically telling us what we should, like how they influence our views. And
How, like I said, there's so many different views that they give us.
to confuse us, just so basically we buy their food and we buy more of it and they make more money. And then so more we buy, the more money they have, the more money they're able to give to lobbyists who are able to
promote their image.
The commercials.
And to
everything.
convince government officials to change laws and things like that. So I feel like that's a really good note to end on. Anyone have any final thoughts they want to say before we end this?
No, I don't believe so.
I think we covered a lot.
I think we did too.
Okay.
So do you want to
All
cut us
right.
out?
Thank you guys for tuning in with us again, and we hope to see you soon.
This has been Food for Thought. Our episode is...
Food industry on obesity.
Yep. And I'm Trisha.
Taylor.
And Jane, thanks for stopping by.